Hello, welcome to the Thursday Business News Report. It's now time to bring you our feature on the show today as we focus on the energy sector. Now, the petroleum industry bill has wandered its way through the National Assembly for about decades, now 2 decades at least, and it has faced several disappointments and metamorphoses on its way to becoming a law. Initially a single bill, it was broken down into different bills, with one of the bills, that's the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, passed by lawmakers in 2017, only to fail to get the much-needed presidential assent. Now it is back to the National Assembly as one single bill. The bill has long been presented as a credible solution to the myriad of problems facing the petroleum industry and the country at large, but its current version before the National Assembly is far from being a perfect bill. Now, if passed according to some individuals and signed into law as it is, it could represent a major missed opportunity for Nigeria. Joining me now live via Skype to discuss this development and the need for an aggressive revamp of the oil and gas sector in Nigeria, I have energy analyst Balazaka joining me. Good morning, Balazaka. Good to have you on the Breakfast Show.
Thank you.
Now, the PIB, which is intended as a complete overhaul of the Nigerian oil and gas sector, seeks to, amongst others, ensure an increased level of transparency and accountability in the sector by strengthening the governing institutions to attract investment capital through changes to the government, administrative, regulatory, and even the fiscal framework. Now, in March this year, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources made mention of an intention of the National Assembly to pass the bill into law at the end of this month. We barely have 24 hours to go. How disappointed would you be if there is a further delay?
Personally, I will not be disappointed. It's something that I'm already used to. So if others will be disappointed, I will not be disappointed. I will only say it is very, very unfortunate. When you talk about this petroleum industry bill, we got it wrong when we decided to balkanize it into 4. The original 223-page document was what we were supposed to work with. But immediately, either for whatever reason, it became balkanized into 4. That was where we got it wrong. Because as I speak to you today, ask anybody and let them tell you the meaning of host community. People don't even know the definition of host community. Then we had only 3 things we needed to resolve: the power of the minister, the host community, and frontier exploration. But immediately it became balkanized. Everything got rubbished. And I don't want to sound immodest, but to so many people today, even if you pass it, it will be like dead on arrival, because investors have taken their investment to investment heavens. What we were supposed to have done that time was, all we needed to do will have been to bring in oil and gas accountants, oil and gas engineers, oil and gas economists, oil and gas environmentalists, congregate them in one place and let them look at the bill. It was necessary at that time, because when you say production means a different thing to oil and gas engineer. It means a different thing to oil and gas accountant. It means a different thing to the environmentalist. When you use the word reserve means a different thing to a lawyer. It means a different thing to the accountant. It means a different thing to the engineer. So what they needed really to do was to bring all these experts together, brainstorm, and agree on definition of reserve, definition of production, definition of host community. Then after that, they will meet the legislators. Then the legislators will interview all of them, the experts, in one place, so that if there are differences in terminologies, they will reconcile them and agree on the definition of regimes. Then the legislators will pass everything for assent, maybe to the president also. But for political reasons or whatever, they decided to have everything balkanized. Okay. The engineer is still having his own definition separately. The lawyer is having his definition separately. The communities and environmentalists are having their respective definitions separately. How can you move a bill like that? And while that was going, the investors were delaying, and most of them were international investors. So the only option left for them was to look for better investment havens. Because even if they had shareholders were waiting for dividend. And if they had collected loans, they needed to pay what we call cost of capital. So it's purely procrastination, which has brought us to this stage. So as far as I'm concerned, it will almost be dead on arrival, but it's better late than never.
Like you said, it's better late than never. Now, some analysts are also saying that there are a few issues as well in the bill that deserve serious scrutiny, including the proposed commercialization of the NNPC. What sentiment do you share going by the grim picture and reports we've had from the NNPC looking at our processing volume? We've not had in the last 15 months from July 2019 up till January this year, we did not process any crude at all. The state of our refineries and other challenges that continue to engulf or mitigate any efforts that we see from the NNPC?
That one has to purely do with lack of planning. And quote me as I speak to you right now. When you talk about drilling campaigns have gone down very, very low. I said, quote me, in the whole of Nigeria today, with all the companies we have, we do not have up to 6 drilling rigs. Quote me, we do not have up to 6 drilling rigs drilling in Nigeria today. But there was a time when only one company will have up to 6 drilling rigs. There was a time when the Nigerian companies in total will have close to 50, 60 drilling rigs. That on its own will tell you that investment heaven is no longer in Nigeria. These things are practical realities. Then in the case of the refineries, if in the last 30 years or 31 or 32 years, we have not been able to build additional refineries or even maintain the new ones that we inherited, did our leaders expect anybody to tell them that our population was going to be increasing? Did our leaders expected anybody to tell them that, strategic industrial sector will require energy, strategic domestic sector will require energy, and strategic commercial sectors will require energy in the last 31 or 32 years? So it was purely lack of planning and focus from our leaders, because we have handed over the economic, political, and social destiny of our lives into their care to manage, and that was why we elected them. So if for one reason or the other we have energy crisis, it purely has to do with lack of planning, lack of focus, and lack of thinking forward from the leaders, because they own, or we have handed over our economic, political, and social destiny into their custody to manage. That was why we elected them.
Mr. Zaka, let's now talk about forecasts in terms of clean energy. That's where the global conversation is tilting now. But looking at the inclusion of the reduction of hydrocarbon tax to about 30% for converted leases, down from 42.5% in the original bill plan, this is a bid to attract more investors into Nigeria's oil and gas sector. Before the time is out, we still need to aggressively tilt towards carbon reduction and emission within that regard. What do you make of this inclusion?
Moving towards cleaner energy, whether it's cleaner fossil fuel, is a global move, and Nigeria needs to key into that move, which I totally agree. But the problems that are bedeviling Nigeria as we speak today, the micro and macro economic problems, are self-inflicted. So the first thing you do is, when you want to join the vanguard of the global community, you need to also ask yourself how you are doing fairly. So as we speak to you, we have shortages. And when you talk about investors, whether you are moving to cleaner fossil fuel or you are moving into renewable, as long as Nigeria continues to experience this level of climate hostility, insecurity, and other social biases, investors will only look for better and cheaper and safer investment havens. And when I talk about investors here, I'm talking about foreign investors and local investors. Even if you are a Nigerian, considering the level of business climate hostilities, lack of energy, insecurity, and the rest, it will be very difficult for you to invest in Nigeria. And we should understand that charity begins at home. And charity is supposed to begin at home with the locals. So if as locals the investment climate is looking hostile, let us rally round as Nigerians to see how we can create a safer, peaceful and a cheaper environment to operate. But if we don't do that, we are living in a global world. The entire global community is seeing and has a microscopic analysis of what is happening in Nigeria daily.
Mr. Zaka, I would like to put you in a fit at this point in time. Do you think we're still going to have a long wait for the PIB? It's a yes or no answer at this point in time. What do you think will play out?
Honestly, the answer is I don't know. It depends on the legislators and the executive.
Okay, Mr. Zaka, we'll just leave it right there and keep our fingers crossed. We still have barely 24 hours to go till the end of the month of April. We never can tell what would happen next. Thank you very much for your time on The Breakfast Show this morning, and hopefully government and necessary oil and gas sector players are listening keenly to all these conversations, because we just have to do better. There's no other excuse for what we have on ground as we speak currently.